Masaba's in the middle. Wednesday here could seal it. Gassman finds Masaba.
Now Bannon with a great ball in. Here's an opportunity. Palmer scores! Liam Palmer has scored for Sheffield Wednesday.
So England are into the semis, and Wednesday just keep giving me a semi. Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. We've got yet another jam-packed episode for you this evening in what's been another busy week for Sheffield Wednesday with new signings, new contracts, new kits, and a winning start to pre-season. Matt, I can see you with your head in your hands there, mate. Don't worry, it don't get any better. We're live on YouTube and on X, so if you're listening live, then do make sure you leave a comment, and we'll try our best to read them out. We're going to be talking about the first pre-season friendly, a 2-0 win over Alfreton, as well as our thoughts on new signings, Olaf Kabake, and a returning James Beadle as well. There's also been new contracts for Josh Windass and Dom Iorfa. We'll also be talking about the brand new orange away kit, which was announced earlier last week, which is banging, by the way. And of course, there's the small matter of England versus Switzerland to talk about as well. I'm James Mappin. Alongside me is Mr. Matt Johnson. Matt, what did you think of that intro, mate?
It's a good job I wasn't having a drink as well. You'd have been doing a one-person podcast and I'd have spat it all out anywhere. I hadn't read the introduction. That was absolutely outstanding, I'll be honest with you. That really took me back hard.
It's true. Like the positivity around the football club is absolutely unheard of. It's just good news story after good news story, and just people on Twitter, your mates you're talking about, everyone's just absolutely buzzing at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, it is unbelievable. Like it's been, what a week it's been. Like we were sat here this time last week saying, last week was a really important week, but these 2 weeks could be really, really important, especially with us going to St George's Park. Obviously, this upcoming week, I'd expect to see a couple more through the door, and then we didn't seem to stop. Like there was some positivity coming out of the club Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All right, nothing come out. Danny didn't get sacked just as a result of it. But it was so positive, like over the course of the week, and then obviously the game yesterday, England as well. Like really, really good week. Really good week. Unheard
of. I mean, obviously, I know I said about the intro. Of course, new season, new intro for the podcast as well. I just want to say a massive thanks to Dan, one of the listeners that created that, because it looks the part, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I'm also really pleased that you've got Anne Johnson scores slipped into the intro as well. I'm thrilled by that. If I close my eyes, it's just either me or my son. Like it's in another parallel universe.
You never know. It's not going to be yourself, but it might be your son. You never know.
There's life in me, yeah. If we're getting linked with Paul Mullin at the start of this window and Stephen Fletcher's still scoring for Wrexham, some conference north side will have me.
Hey, look, Cristiano Ronaldo's still doing it, so you never know.
I was just about to say, an immobile 6'3" forward is exactly what somebody wants.
Look, I can take a free kick and miss as well, so there's still hope. Obviously, as I said, new season. This season is 24-25. Have I got that wrong? Because I put that tweet out earlier or yesterday saying, Piers Charles is going to be number one goalkeeper next season. God, the amount of people that were commenting saying, Beadle's not come just to sit on the bench. What do you think? I'm like, calm down. Like, surely now, when you're talking about this season is the one coming up. Next season, that's the one after this one. Like, do you know what I mean? That's 25, 26. It just baffled me, that one.
Yeah, I also thought you were off on it, to be perfectly honest with you, because James Beadle will sign permanently and will be playing Premier League football, and Piers Charles will be out on loan somewhere. So, I thought you were wrong on it for a different reason, to be honest with you.
Yes. Well, I was quite impressed by Piers Charles, to be fair. But anyway, for me, the cut-off is July the 1st. That is when all the contracts end. I mean, to be fair, we've played his first pre-season game. Like, you played pre-season for that season, surely. But anyway, well, not by the by is what it is. Whatever. I did mean the 25-26 season for all those that thought I'd absolutely lost the plot and thought that Piers Charles were going to be between the sticks this season. Which no, not at all. Right, we're all going to be talking about Wednesday, but let's talk about England first of all. Let's get that out of the way and everything. The first 4 performances were absolutely utter dog shit. I'm not going to be talking like Gary Lineker, Micah Richards and Rio Ferdinand and thinking it were the best performance that England have ever had. But it was better though, Matt. I thought it was visibly better than the previous 4.
I think it was more used to what I suppose English football fans are seeing in terms of the intensity of it. In terms of chances created, your big players stepping up aside from Bukayo Saka, it was pretty much of a muchness. But at this point, when you're talking quarterfinal, semi-final, finals, who cares? Like, nicest one in the world, who cares now? Like, we're all going to look back at Wembley, and we're only a year on, nobody actually remembers how shit the game was, and the game was terrible. Like, everybody just remembers Josh Windass winner. Like, and again, the same for last night. In years to come, the performance will be an afterthought, but it will be discussions of Saka's finish. It will be discussions of 5 out of 5 penalties and feeling surrounding it. Yeah. The feeling surrounding it and pressures for tyres. That will be the only things that people actually quote or remember, kind of like going forward with it. So, I mean, ultimately, a win's a win at this point. Again, I know I've spoke about France the entire way through it. I still think that somehow they will end up in the final and win it. Including, Spain have been.
Imagine France against England final. Jesus Christ! You might as well just watch the highlights, of which there'll be not many of them. It will just be 5 penalties or 10 penalties or however many there's going to be at the end.
I was just going to say, just skip the 120 and just get to penalties. But yeah, it's at this point in time, it would be wonderful to have a really free-flowing attacking team that's really defensively sound. But ultimately, who cares at this point in time? Results the only thing that's important, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on the Saka goal. What a goal it was as well, by the way. Cut inside, and he didn't smash it. He just he almost like side-footed it in, didn't he? Really, like just kind of passed it into that corner. Took a bounce as well and just nestled in. I was not the Saka goal, but I was so annoyed. Went to her grandparents to watch it, and then we ordered some food, and then they decided to pause the game. And I'm like, why are you pausing live football? They were like, no. Even I couldn't overrule it. I'm like thinking, what is happening here? Anyway, I had to turn all my notifications. I just put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Just so I like scrolling through Twitter while the match is on to kind of get a feel for what other people are thinking, And then anyway, my wife's cousin, he's only 18. He went, just had a notification. I was like, why say that? Like, why, when you're watching it, why say it? So now I'm like, well, we might as well fast forward it now to this point, because we know nothing happens until whatever the live TV is now. And of course, obviously it was a Switzerland goal. So we did, and it's that weird point. He said it was on 75 minutes, I think the goal was. So we fast forwarded it to 73. And it was that weird point, because we obviously didn't know whether it was an England goal or a Swiss goal. And then you're kind of thinking, how do we score from this point? And then it's the game's going on, and you think, yeah, I know what's happening here. We're not scoring from this point. It's definitely a Switzerland goal. But yeah, it's weird. Do you know what? Just on that, there was, I think, Talk Sport, Jamie O'Hara and Cundy as well. They did one for the they're doing live stream watch-alongs for all the games. They did one last week for the Slovakia game where Bellingham scores the overhead kick, and they must be watching it on ITVX or something on the over the internet, whereas other people must have got it on terrestrial TV, because you hear them scream in the background, and they're like. But then they kind of pretended as if they didn't know, and then celebrated as if they've just realised what's happened. Like, nah, you're not fooling us. We definitely heard it in the background.
I was just about to say that would have gone viral with all of them turning around, going, "Oh, fuck," like absolutely losing their marbles about it. That I would have definitely gone back and watched. Yeah, I mean, the first thing. Let's unpack a bit of that to begin with. First thing. Pausing live TV, that is especially of a game of that level of importance as well. Pausing.
I'd gone out of the room. I'd gone out of the room and I come back in and it had been paused. I was like, "What are we doing here?" Like what?
Yeah, and I've had no say in this as well. Yeah. Like it's like, and that's like when you're midway through a season, and for whatever reason, you like, you know, if it's I don't know, a midweek game, and I've got a meeting or something, I can't do it, and I've had to, I don't know, take a flight to France and like watch it on iPlayer or something. You're sat there thinking, all right, okay, and then your phone starts pinging like 30 seconds to a minute beforehand. You think, oh dear, no, I'm going to cancel all of this. The worst one that I had was the League One season. Was it? We played Fleetwood on a Tuesday. Was it Fleetwood? Somebody on a Tuesday night. We won 3-1. I think Michael Smith scored. George Byers scored.
Yes.
Smith got 2. Byers got 1.
Yes. The 2 carbon copy headers from corners. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And I'd turned all my notifications off on my phone, but I was streaming it through my iPad, and it popped up on Twitter, the goal alert, and it was goal. I was like, and obviously it was on my TV, so I was midway through the game, and then it just pops up at the top, and I was like, all right, okay, cool. Right, let's see how we get to this. Exactly as you were saying with the Switzerland game. Right, let's see how we get to this from here. I've got no idea. But yeah, I'm not one for. I'm definitely not one for pausing live football. But again, was it your grandparents or
no? It was hers.
Oh yeah, you can't say. Yeah, you can't say a damn thing. Then you can walk in and look shocked and disgusted, but you daren't open your mouth.
No, I was. You know, the worst thing. I mean, fair enough. I turn my notifications off, but then to be told, I'm like, well, there's no point in watching this next 6 minutes. Yeah. Like, nothing's going to happen. What is the point in watching it? But anyway. Once again, though, Gareth Southgate took an absolute age to make any substitute. Is it like some sort of phobia that he's got, that he just can't make a substitute before? I mean, what was it, 78th minute? Well, up until them scoring, that he actually decided to actually make a sub.
Yeah, I mean, I thought just before Switzerland scored, I mean, the commentary had mentioned it as well. The subs for Switzerland had made a huge difference, and they kind of wrestled back a little bit more control, and they were growing into the game a little bit more. And then obviously the goal, I thought it was a really well worked goal. Kyle Walker, wrong side of his man again. It feels like it's becoming a weekly thing on this podcast. It's like talking about Wednesday defenders here. If he weren't a Blade, I'd feel sorry for him. But it was, you know, it's a case of he gets the wrong side of his man. Esri Konsa, who was outstanding on the night, was really, really good, and he'll more than likely drop back down to the bench, but will be unlucky to lose his place. Gets unlucky with the kind of the block in terms of it goes through him, hits Stones. Walker's already lost his man at the back post. I thought Mbolo, who played up front for Switzerland, has been a handful every single game that I've seen him. I know he didn't start the tournament for Switzerland, but he was a real handful. Leading the line on your own is not easy. We've seen that at Wednesday plenty over the past year or so. And he did that really, really well. I did one thing that was really positive, however, is I know you mentioned there that Southgate's not necessarily a proactive manager; he's more a reactive manager, and I agree with all of the statements on Gareth Southgate being reactive, and that potentially being his biggest downfall or his biggest flaw in terms of himself as a manager. But he completely changed it. 3 subs immediately on. Palmer, Eze, Shaw, all, you know, come on and made a huge difference. And it did immediately open up a left side of a pitch where, I mean, we must be some team if we can just play with one wing for 70-odd minutes of a game.
It's mad. But the thing is, for me, if you can make them changes so quick, which he did, and then people are praising him for, you know, making them changes in that pressure cooker environment when you've gone 1-0 down, you're facing, you know, being out of the tournament again, which is fine. But surely I think that says to me, like, why aren't you making them changes 10 minutes before? And, you know, if they're making that much of an impact when you're 1-0 down, I know obviously the game's different and Switzerland's mentality is different, having gone 1 goal up and everything else. And it is almost, you know, it is literally you're going out, whereas at 0-0, you're still in with a chance. But just like that's what these, you know, we're talking about world-class footballers here. We're not, you know, I know times for Wednesday last season, we made subs and we didn't really, you know, the subs that were coming on weren't great. We're talking about, like I said, world-class footballers on the bench for England that can actually, that make a difference every single week for their club. But yet, you know, they you know, seemingly are not allowed to come on the pitch.
No, I agree. I do agree, and I understand that. I understand the point of where people are making that from. I think the thing that, I suppose, again, myself sitting here, I always think of it in the sense of, yes, Switzerland had wrestled control of, or a little bit more of control of the game, but it wasn't like one-way traffic up until the goal. It wasn't, you know, like, oh my word, this is definitely coming.
Yeah.
It was Switzerland are creating a couple of chances. The worry is obviously if you make the changes that you ultimately had to once the goal had gone in, is that England go to immediately a much more forward thinking and attacking side. You bring Eze and Cole Palmer on, you are immediately saying, no, we are going forward here. And what Switzerland have done really well all tournament is break on teams and counter-attack teams. Italy are a prime example. Italy tried to be a bit more open with Chiesa, and they just sliced through them. Like, aside from Germany, any time that a side has attempted to really press kind of like Switzerland further up the pitch and really try and win the ball back and be progressive, Switzerland have broken and countered really, really well. I thought, again, changes were good. And again, the goal is sensational. It's a cultured finish, is how I would describe it, definitely. Which feels weird saying it's gone in from like 20 odd yards out.
Yeah.
But he's not absolutely took the took the leather off the ball. He's not looked to kind of like break the net. He's looked to make sure that it is as close to that post as possible, and it is obviously as it kisses the post as it goes in. But it's just a really, really smart finish.
I love how the keeper just doesn't even dive either. He just goes like kind of swivels on his knee, and you're almost hoping for the ball just to kind of go slide past the post, and you're like, oh fuck, we've got that one totally wrong, and it just got in. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get there if he dives anyway, but yeah, just literally, yeah. He couldn't have put it in a better place, really, to be honest. And as well, to do that again in that situation, you know, your country's 1-0 down, you need to score, and for him to just step up and do what he's done. I mean, I think Saka was by far the best player on the pitch, absolutely hands down. Even before the goal, it was such a. Everything was going down his side, when, as you mentioned before, and he was the one that we were kind of looking to do something. Yeah,
of course, and I suppose all evening, in terms of the game, Saka realised he'd got the beating of the man, and one of the things that I'm a really big fan of Bukayo Saka for is he doesn't ever get deterred by that. I suppose that's a compliment to both him and also Martinelli, who's often played on the other wing at Arsenal, is they clearly are bred confidence in terms of just keep going at him. I don't mind if you lose it. I don't mind if you lose it every single time that you run at him. I'd rather you keep going at him, because Bukayo Saka always looks to attack his fullback. Even when the option doesn't look on, he's facing the other way, he's always trying to drop a shoulder and go the other way. Whereas I suppose it is in stark contrast to everything that has been going on the opposite wing. I know there's been players who've been played out of position there. I know there isn't really anybody who can currently fill into that role, but it is at total odds. Bukayo Saka was supposed to be playing wing back yesterday. He was playing as a right forward. You look over to the other side of the pitch, and Kieran Trippier, who is supposed to be playing wing back, is playing left back. It was so imbalanced until the changes. Changes were made, impact was had, and then after that, it became like every other quarter-final knockout game, aside from Turkey, who seemed to throw everything at everybody all the time. In terms of, it was really cagey up until about 3 minutes to go of extra time, where everyone just decides, do you know what, fuck it, let's just go for it and see if we get something here.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan said Luke Shaw made the difference off the bench, and I have to agree with that, because that's his position, and it's probably the first time that we've actually, we've had that. Everyone talks about balance. It's kind of a buzzword at the moment, isn't it? And yeah, I felt like he did. Well, all three changes, I think, made quite a big difference, and added a bit of kind of intensity to England's game. I know obviously we had to do that. We were one goal down, so that does definitely help. But I felt that overall, one thing that didn't impress me, but it certainly I was more pleased about, is that the previous four games, the first look has always been backwards. Whereas this time it looked like they were actually trying to move the ball forward. It wasn't going back to the last man every single time. They were thinking, actually, can I play that pass forward? And yeah, we didn't really break them down. But again, every team we've played haven't really given us a good go, if you know what I mean. They haven't tried to beat us. They've just tried to catch us on the counter. And again, it comes back to we're a victim of our own success, or perceived success. Let's say that teams are just happy just to sit back, and it is almost like, come on then, try and break us down, and no matter how good you are, it's still so difficult to do that.
Yeah, and at this stage, everybody's trying to win it. Nobody's trying to get to a quarter-final and go, oh, that's great, we'll just leave. The way to beat England is to sit in and make it difficult, because you will get a chance. There is a guarantee of at least one chance a game. You're not sitting in to quote Darren Moore, a low block for 90 minutes. You are going to get a set piece, a couple of corners, throw-ins into some dangerous areas. And sides, again, it's going back to that idea of the Foden versus Bellingham argument. It's players with moments. It's not outstanding quality over 90, 120 minutes. It's a player producing a moment, much like lots of Champions League football is in the later stages as well. And that's the kind of quality that is there. Is you want the players on the pitch with the quality to, when that moment arrives, for them to be able to take it. Now, in the case of what we had yesterday, Saka arrived and stepped up and obviously took his moment with not loads of time left. Bellingham did it in the round before. Netherlands on, is it Wednesday? Again, I would probably suggest that we've got more difference makers in a moment than Netherlands. Again, I'll be honest, I think the game on Wednesday is two really evenly matched sides. It's two teams that kind of are flattered to deceive. They're probably playing at about the same level. The only difference is Cody Gakpo, who is playing for Netherlands and obviously the Liverpool player, is having a really good tournament for Netherlands and will stand out like a sore thumb on that pitch, because he is somebody who is, as an individual player, playing really well. Aside from Bukayo Saka the other day, England haven't really had anybody who has stood out head and shoulders and made themselves or elevated themselves to that kind of, they are the best player on this team. We've had moments from Bellingham. Saka's been consistently good throughout. Kane has been non-existent. Foden's been non-existent. There's been a lot of discussion about kind of like the back 3, 4, however many that you want to play. Thought Kobbie Mainoo had a really good game yesterday, but I suppose 2 weeks work experience at Sheffield Wednesday will do that to you.
Yes, it goes without saying on that one.
Of course, yeah, of course. You play alongside Josh Windass and Barry Bannon, and neither of them know your name, and you're only there for 2 weeks, and they're like, oh, he's a good player. Who is he? Oh no, don't worry, he'll be an England star in 2 years. That will get you a controlling quarter-final of a Euros game.
That Middlewood Road training ground works wonders for so many players.
I'm surprised he's not fucking injured.
Well, yeah, it's a surprise, isn't it, that on that one. Matt, let's fast forward to the penalties, because I know we've got loads of Wednesday stuff to talk about, and that's kind of what everyone wants to hear. Palmer, Bellingham, Saka, Tony, and Trent all stepped up and put them all away. Some of the penalties, I think all of them, to be fair, absolutely sublime, and the cojones on all of them to step up, because I don't think any one of them was just a smash it. They've all got the little routine, what they were doing, giving the keeper the eyes. Obviously we'll come on to Tony in a second, but the Palmer one, he's just sent the keeper the wrong way. Is it Bellingham again? I think he just kind of rolls it in, side foots it, again, sent the keeper going in different directions. Saka, it looked like he'd scuffed it, but I don't think he did. Just put it. If you can put a ball in the side netting from the penalty spot, there's no keepers getting there whatsoever. The Tony one, were you like me? I was shitting my pants when he stepped up. I'm thinking
less so this time. I'll let you get through them, but every single one of those players is a dead ball specialist, and four of the 5 are penalty specialists.
Tony's put the ball down on the ground, and then obviously that camera angle from behind him, and he's took a couple of steps back, and I'm thinking, carry on. A few more steps, please. You need to have at least a bit of a run up. I'm thinking he's like 1.5 steps there. Like, what's he going? How is he going to get the power on the ball to even? I wouldn't be able to reach the net from a standing start, let alone score a goal past a world class goalkeeper. But yeah, obviously it's been talked about counting. Every time you turn Twitter on, it's another clip of that goal. But how has he done? Like, not even looked at where the ball is. That's a skill in itself. Just kicking the ball without even looking at it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just going back to the Saka one as well. The Saka one, I think, is a technique that James Milner used to use for penalties when he used to take them consistently for Liverpool. It's hitting the ball with the heel rather than with kind of like your instep to get that, not only to put it into the corner, but also so that a goalkeeper who stood opposite you has no idea in which way that you're going, because the ball's coming off your heel. He doesn't know whether you're wrapping it, doesn't know whether you're keeping the foot open. Just before I move on from that, it was also amazing to see Saka score, you could see the pressure beforehand. There was those three big shoulder breaths, and then the celebration afterwards. It was a really, really nice full circle moment because, I mean, after that Euros, the last Euros, he received some vile racial abuse from all different sections of society. And it was really good also to see Jadon Sancho coming out as well. I don't know if anybody's been keeping an eye on it on Twitter or Instagram today and posted and said, that is, thank you very much. That is for both myself and Marcus as well, because obviously it was all three of them who missed. It was just, I just thought it was a really, really nice, a really good moment. It's Bukayo Saka's Stuart Pearce moment. But obviously with the different connotations surrounding obviously what went on. The Ivan Toney penalty, he was the player who I was most confident about in terms of what he was going to do, in terms of he was going to stare a keeper down. I haven't seen, I could be wrong, I definitely haven't seen Ivan Toney miss a penalty. Granted, I don't watch Brentford games every week.
Do you know? I thought you tuned into every single one,
No, funnily enough. No, I'm still scarred from the 5-0. The one that I was most convinced about was that Trent was going to wrap it as hard as he could into, absolutely whip it into that keeper's right, his left-hand side. I've never been more convinced of where a ball is going in my entire life.
Brentford, so Ivan Toney, 93% success rate. He scored 28 of 30 penalties in his career, which is some... I don't know how many, when the last time that he missed one was, but that is that's in not including penalty shootouts, by the way, because they never seem to record. They don't exist, do they, in terms of stat world for some bizarre reason? Yeah, I mean, I suppose it would really do you for goalkeepers, I guess, in terms of their save percentage.
It would, and you'd start having people on goal of a season. If you did a few FA Cup runs, you'd have goal of a season at like 50, which is, I know, normal when you've got Erling Haaland in the league, but slightly different. But the other one as well, I know we were going to come on to talk about it, but Jordan Pickford as well is, again, bold claim. Could you argue that Jordan Pickford is now England's best ever goalkeeper? In terms of from penalty shootouts, his record is immaculate. 4 penalty shootouts, won 3 of them. Always saves one. Always gives the team a chance to go and win the game. I know some of his antics and his screaming and kind of like the faces that he pulls aren't for everybody. I like a goalkeeper who's a bit mental. I think it goes back to that old adage of you've got to have a screw loose to play in goal. I think it's really, really good. I can think of nothing more off-putting than being stood opposite in the most pressurised moment of your professional career, and somebody's the opposite side of it pulling stupid faces at you.
Yeah, it's not going to fill you with any more confidence, is it? Anyway, yeah, I think it's a strange one, I think, because when you look back, like who are the great goalkeepers? I mean, I always go back to David Seaman, probably because that was the England goalkeeper that I saw from growing up as a kid, still scarred by that Ronaldinho goal, as we touched on a few times already on this pod. But other than that, there hasn't really been many great goalkeepers. Kind of the opposite for Sheffield Wednesday, isn't it? We've had great goalkeepers over the time, but England, it's always a position that we've kind of struggled in, really. So maybe you're right. I mean, the thing that's perturbed me is seeing Pickford with his hair not gelled back. There's that picture that Kane put on, and I had to go in the comments, and I'm thinking, is that Pickford or is that Anthony Gordon, or is that someone else? And then I'm like, it definitely looks like him, but it just looks weird. I think Specsavers had the top comment saying something about seeing Pickford with his everyday hair or something, and rubs eyes, little emoji, and exactly what I did. I'm thinking he looks strange. It looks odd. It looks better, to be fair, than his slick back hair. I have no idea what he's doing, but anyway. Someone put in the Discord saying, I'll read out what he put. It was great. So my best mate called me. He's the first team analyst at Man City, and said Walker called him last night to send over all the footage they have of Akanji taking pens in training. Apparently went exactly as he always does. And he also said he's now claiming that I owe him a pint as well for that save. But the length that clubs, teams go to now to analyse every part of the game is incredible, because that game doesn't go to penalties. that work that he's just wasted, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also bringing this back round to Sheffield Wednesday, isn't it nice to know that we've at least got 2 of them in the door now, rather than no bugger, which was previous seasons. All of that is vital information in a game that is, like it or not, it's a game that is now driven by data. Football is a data-driven sport, and you play percentages, you don't play for those moments, which is why, incidentally, those moments win you the games at these competitions, because everybody is playing the percentages. Everybody knows what is, like a high percent chance creation. Everybody knows where the danger areas are within a pitch, and everybody's blocking all of those channels off, which is why you see sides like England, like France, like Switzerland last night just going side to side to side to side to side, because they are trying to make somebody make an individual error to open up a space on the pitch and capitalise on it.
Yeah.
It's those moments there, like ringing, somebody up at, like being a player at your club and going, I need every single piece of evidence that we've ever taken from Akanji taking penalties at City's training ground, which, incidentally, how many incidents of Akanji taking penalties must there be? There must have been about 5 clips.
How far down in the pecking order is Akanji at taking penalties at Man City? I mean, he's going to be, number 9 of penalties on the pitch, and really, even the goalkeeper probably comes ahead of him.
I was literally just about to say you'll have Edison before him, and that gives you an idea of how much depth of analysis and data that there clearly is at these type of clubs. But yeah, again, the save is routine, but the save's routine if you know which way he's going. It's not a great penalty, but if Pickford goes the other way, that looks a really calm penalty.
I said the same. Steve, who I watch it with, he's like, awful penalty, and I'm like, yeah, it is. But then I think Bellingham takes the next one, and I'm like, keeper dives the right way. That looks shit as well, because he's literally just rolled it. You know what I mean? He's not put any effort into it. He's just, he knows it's going in. But yeah, if the keeper goes the right way, we're going to be saying exactly the same thing. So it's weird penalties. It's like, is it a good save or is it a shit penalty, or is it, and sometimes, depends on which side of the fence you're sitting at, really, I guess. But no, we're through. We're into the semis. It don't feel like it. It just we haven't played well once, and I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Which way do you look at it? Is it great that we're not playing well and we've got to the semi-final? Are we just lucky? Is it a poor tournament? It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you enter into knockout tournaments. It'd be the same if we were in the FA Cup and we shithouse 1-0 wins all the way. Doesn't matter whether you're playing from a conference side all the way to a Prem side to get there. You take the result, don't you? I would love it if England all of a sudden turned into Spain 2008 and started playing attractive football, because from somebody who, again, I know I've said this every week, who is not invested in the national side at all, I'd like to watch it. I'd much prefer to watch it than the shite that I'm watching at the minute. But the trade-off to that is that's not how teams win these tournaments, because that Spain side is the last side that I can really remember playing outstanding football the whole way through. Even if you go back to the Qatar World Cup and the fairy tale of kind of Messi winning the World Cup, Argentina didn't play particularly well. They waited for those moments of magic from Lionel Messi, and he created every single game. We are just relying on a vast array of players at the minute to create something. It just happens to have been a couple others. It'll be really interesting team selection on Wednesday to see what he does with the defence, what he does with the players who came onto the pitch. He's got a big decision to make up top, in my opinion, in Harry Kane, because I think Kane has looked so far off it. And if you're now going back to Harry Kane's last really big final of this kind of stature, if you get there, it's the Champions League one against Liverpool, where it is undoubted that he cost that Tottenham team by playing when he just wasn't fit. So it'll be really, really interesting to see what Gareth Southgate does. It will be exactly the same as it has been the entire way through.
It's a tricky one, because for me, I was saying this earlier, if they'd have gone for, gone for it as if they didn't try and win the game, but if they'd have beat Denmark in that second game, I would hazard a guess saying that Ivan Toney or Watkins would have probably played in that third game, because it means nothing. You're already through. We didn't. We needed to do something in that game. So Kane's played every single one. It's now, you kind of know what Kane can do. It's kind of almost like the Cristiano Ronaldo effect, isn't it? You know what he can do, so you're kind of scared of not playing him, just in case your replacement also does nothing as well, and you're thinking, maybe Kane could have potentially have done something in that situation. but we haven't really got much sample size of Tony, other than he's played in extra time, hasn't he, in both games. Yeah, it's not really that much for me. It is for me to play him. I'm screaming out to play him, but I don't think Gareth's going to take that risk. We've all seen all those tweets and WhatsApp messages about Gareth Southgate wears high vis in when he goes to the loft and stuff like that, which I think some are absolutely fantastic, by the way. But yeah, like we know he's not going to take any risks whatsoever. He only made one change this week, and it was a forced one because he was suspended. So it's probably just going to make one change again, which will be to swap them two around and put him back in. So, but yeah, we'll see. Right, let's switch it up then, and let's talk about Sheffield Wednesday. We'll start talking about the pre-season game, first pre-season game of the campaign. Alfreton for the, as Barry Bannon said, the 84th time. Do we seem to play him every single year? Always a good trip there. How did your trip to Alfreton go, Matt?
Yeah, I was just about to say, good trip there, every single trip. Yeah, so I was kind of umming and ahhing about buying a ticket. Bought my ticket first thing in the morning, was like, yeah, no, I'll go. Then 20 minutes after that stream got announced. So I was thinking, oh, for fuck's sake. Right, well, I've got to go now. So I told my missus. My missus was like, that's fine. I'll get back in at 11. Door opened up. Mrs. comes in floods of tears. She's on. I don't know. Honestly, she won't listen to this, so who cares? She was stood on a ramped escalator. I'm giving you like full visuals here. She was stood on a ramped escalator like that, but it was chucking it down here in Birmingham at parts yesterday. So she stood on it like that, stood stock still in her words, and has somehow lost the feet from underneath her, landed on her elbow and cut all of her arm on the underside of it. Really landed, obviously because it's metal, landed on her back. First question I asked was, did you slide down it to the bottom, which wasn't greeted particularly well. So then whilst I'm looking at the clock as well before the door had gone open. I walked into this mess. So I'm looking at the clock thinking, it's 11 o'clock here. It's an hour and 20 minutes away. What are we doing? I'm going to need to get a wriggle on here. Then the door goes. So then obviously she comes in, start patching her up and all the rest of it. Now, I have come in from when I was playing football. God, no, I don't play football anymore unless there are any Conference North sides out there. Was stood there patching her up. The amount of unsympathetic comments that have been made my way, come in with, anybody who sprained an ankle. I've come in concussed once. I've come in with ligament damage to my knee. The amount of, this is just ridiculous. I don't know why you're doing this. The amount of, it can't hurt that much. I made one joke about going and getting the saw out the garage, and now I'm the insensitive prick. What, honest to God, it's the most dad joke that you can ever make. I was going to my son, go and get that saw out the garage. That's just insensitive, that. You haven't thought about, Jesus, what? So,
when you wish you just should not have opened your mouth.
Shouldn't have opened my mouth. Anyway, by the time all of the hysteria had stopped, it was 12:15. So I thought, there's no way I'm making kick-off here. So
well, you might have done, because they had to delay it 10 minutes or so.
Well, that was the other thing. So then I had to pay for the bastard stream. So then I've paid £6 for the stream that was working perfectly fine up until 15 minutes before kickoff, and then all of a sudden just shut down. Then loaded up again 2 minutes before, and then was sort of fine. But then there was a message that come up saying kickoff has been delayed by 10 minutes to allow supporters to come in. So I'm thinking, right, great. So I'll now carry on doing this childcare business. Then the game kicks off. And the stream that was put up, for those of you who didn't pay the £6, like a lot of muggins is.
Me, I'm one of them as well.
It was so jump. You'd get 5 seconds, then it would jump to 30 seconds ahead. Then you'd get 5 seconds, then it would jump to 15 seconds ahead. And that was for the first 8 minutes. That's if you were lucky enough to be able to get onto it.
Yeah.
I'm all for Alfreton trying to make a bit of money out of it. I am all for that. Like, genuinely, I really am. But you can password protect YouTube views. Like, I'm really under the, it is not a huge marquee friendly, as you say, because it's been 81 times that we've played them. But it is going to drive a lot of revenue, because Sheffield Wednesday fans, we are a mental bunch, and we will pay to watch anything. If Sheffield Wednesday were playing a game of fives beach soccer and it was our under 23s, there'd be people who would sit there glued to it like that. Yeah, and then after, what was it, 9 minutes, the stream ended, and then
It just said, this live event has now ended. I'm like, it fucking hasn't. What's happening here? Where's it gone? And I'm there like smashing the refresh button, like, come on, work. You know, what's happening? I think someone put the comment in saying it's gone back to the olden days where you're checking CFAX for the goal alerts. Like,
everyone sat there like on Twitter just hitting refresh like that. And then Alfreton put up that post of, we're trying to resolve the issue, please keep an eye on it. And then all of a sudden...
Did you see the comment on that one, by the way?
No.
I hope you get relegated.
Yeah.
I mean, bit harsh, but, you know, I feel your pain.
Quite funny. And then all of a sudden it just pops up on YouTube. There was no, like, the game is now available for you to watch on YouTube. There was
how did you find it, by the way? Because you put it in the Discord. I'm like thinking, what's he doing? Like, you're mad for it. Like just searching like Sheffield Wednesday on like the whole of the internet, trying to find this game.
So I immediately thought, where's it going to be streamed? It's going to be YouTube. So I immediately just went to Alfreton's YouTube page. Didn't realise they had one. 756 followers. If anybody is interested, there's an 8 minutes post game where actually their gaffers come out and said we did quite well. Not worth a watch. So I went onto there and just kept it in refresh alongside Twitter, alongside my phone going, all the rest of it, and then it literally just popped up with this window and it had one viewer, and I thought, is that the one viewer who's watching it on the stream? So then that was when I posted it obviously in the Discord, and then went from there. But yeah, logged in, didn't see the first 15 minutes, should have been there live, that didn't happen as well, paid 18 quid, and actually I could have just watched the bastard thing for free. Tough day.
You've had better Saturdays. Well, but then we win the game, and then England wins. So I mean, I suppose it ended a lot better than it started. You know, I guess. But yeah, obviously two different 11s played. You know, the first starting lineup. We'll go for the first half. It was Hamer in goal. It was Michael Eheko, Akin Famewo, Jan Valery, and Marvin Johnson. Patterson, Shipston, Gassama, Masaba, Bannon, and Windass. Formation 4-2-3-1. It looked like, but it was definitely Pato playing as the lone striker. Windass in the 10, Gassama and Masaba out wide. So yeah, probably makes sense for it to be like that. But yeah, I think, do you know what? All in all, on the game as a whole, obviously it is only friendly. It doesn't really matter to a certain extent. I think people told us that last season, but it clearly did mean that we were going to be absolutely dog shit when we started the season. But you know, I thought that the first 10 minutes were a bit sketchy, then a bit like the stream. But then I thought we started playing some really good football, really good one-touch football. There was pace, there was intensity, and all in all, I think they just knew what they were trying to do, which was a massive thing. They actually looked like they knew each other. They looked like they worked on some stuff maybe from last season that's kind of blended into this. And yeah, for me, just all in all, just a good run out.
Yeah, that first half was, you know, when people say you can't read too much into pre-season, you can compare it to last pre-season. Yeah. This was night and day from last pre-season. Last pre-season, if we were watching dodgy streams over in Spain or from wherever, from that really horrible training complex that he took them to, you were watching players who had no idea where they were supposed to be playing, no idea what their jobs were supposed to be, and no idea what the patterns of play were supposed to be at all. You can forgive players in pre-season for passes not necessarily hitting their mark. You can forgive players for maybe being out of position a little bit, or maybe being a bit more too advanced in terms of like learning the role. Yesterday was like watching the game before a pre-season ends, in terms of there was a tempo to the game, both halves of it. There was a clear identity in terms of passing, similar to what we finished with last season. It was, in terms of intensity, the amount of times I've watched our first season pre-season friendly and thought, this is walking football. There is no point to this other than centre halves getting touches. That was not the case yesterday. It was, as you say, really, really good. The overlapping, underlapping fullbacks, the ball getting played out to wing. There is such a clear idea and of style in that first game, and that was pretty much what Danny had said, hadn't he, in the post-match press conference, was that all of this was has been working on patterns of play and creating that identity of how we want to play football. This next week upcoming is kind of like loading in terms of intensity, in terms of the sessions and all of the rest of it. But this week has been a very heavy week of getting players into that rhythm. We saw a number of, not full debuts, obviously, because it's just a pre-season friendly, but we saw a lot of, first time that players have played with these, in a competitive match yesterday, and ultimately probably only their 6th or 7th day of actually working with the players.
Yeah.
There wasn't one player who I thought in that first half, second maybe, who actually looked out of place or didn't know what their job was or didn't know what their role was. It was you could watch that and go, yes, it's pre-season, but you could watch that and go, compared to last year, this is light years ahead of where we were.
Yeah, I mean, we've signed seemingly just every single wide player known to man currently in this transfer window. So it was no surprise that every opportunity that we got, we were looking to get the ball into those wide areas, which, I mean, I'm quite thankful of, really, because if we're not, then why the hell have we signed all these wide players? But yeah, the ball wasn't going through the middle. It was literally every opportunity. Let's get it wide. Let's get the ball down the channels. Both sides as well, not just like England down one side. It was left and right. Masaba had a lot of the ball. Gassama did. Johnson had quite a lot of it as well. They were both, going down both sides and looked fairly comfortable on that as well. Cutting in, obviously for the goal, which we'll touch on in a second. That was doing exactly that. There was a few, getting right to the byline and then cutting in and driving at that near post, which, you see, how many goals do you see like that where they get into that area and then they're just waiting for a striker that's popped off that 6-yard box to wait just to side foot it in. So yeah, really, really encouraged by that, really. And last season, again, it was alluded to, we didn't have an identity in the first part of the season. How many times did we say that we don't really know what we're trying to do? Clearly, if that first pre-season game is what what's going to come in the other games coming up, yeah, our identity is get the ball wide, get the ball into the box. We saw that for the second goal as well. Yeah. That was a cross that time. The first goal was something slightly different, and yeah, it was a clear game plan, weren't it, Matt?
Yeah, massively. I thought, I know it's first pre-season game, I thought Jedi Gassama looked really sharp yesterday. Masaba, there was a bit of tripping over the ball at times and him slowing it down and kind of like a little bit more of a sign of trying to build that connection back up with Marvin Johnson, which, to be fair, season before, that is something totally new. Those two have not played together. They don't understand where one another's running. They are going to take, like a bit of time. And then also you saw Bannon coming over to help in terms of what we've seen with him and that connection with Marvin Johnson. Gassama on the other wing, however, with Jan Valery seemed to just say, yeah, I'll just stand back and just let you crack on, really. Because every time he picked the ball up, he looked to attack his full back, looked to go both inside and outside of them, was looking to get shots off, was looking to whip balls across into dangerous areas, wasn't ever actually just taking a touch on the ball and from 25 yards out wide whipping across in, was looking to genuinely always attack space and attack his fullback. Now, will that continue at championship level when you're playing some of the better teams in this league? I damn sure hope so, because I have no problem as a fan watching a young kid going at fullbacks. If you lose the ball, we were talking about Bukayo Saka for half an hour before this. I'm not comparing the two in terms of quality, but I'm comparing the two in terms of attitude of what they can do. Keep going at him, because we, as you say, we're signing every single wide player that is known to man at the minute without a club. Like, there will be another option who can come on and do something different. We want you to solely attack wing-backs and run at them, because he is, I would argue currently, again, we're 50 minutes into it and nobody's mentioned a Colombian yet. He is currently in our squad the player who can beat a man the best. He's pound for pound the best player who can do that. He could, he can turn his way inside out of 3 or 4 players and get away. We've seen it a number of times last year. I want him to do that. I want that to be his game. And when he is on the pitch playing for Sheffield Wednesday, I don't want him checking back unless it's an absolute must. I want him, even if he's facing the wrong way, I want him to, if he's in their half, around their box, I want him running at people. I want him trying a trick. I want him trying something, getting round plays. Really, really positive yesterday.
Yeah, Lee said good performance. Good to see high intensity for a friendly Polish lad. Looked good as well. Yeah, Olaf Kabaki. We'll be talking about him in a second. The goal then, Windass, I mean, that's why we've signed him, innit? Picks the ball up on the edge of the box. It's Johnson that's, like we mentioned, cut inside. He's not opted to go down the line for Masaba. He's cut in. He's found Windass, who it literally takes one touch to control it, a second touch to get it out of his feet, and the camera angle is absolutely perfect. It's that bang behind him, and he hits it, and it's got, again, he's not leathered it. He's kind of hit it with a bit of swaz on it. He's bent it into that top corner. Someone said, I don't care if it's Alfreton or whoever, it could have been playing against insert any team here, and I don't think there's many goalkeepers that's going to get anything on that one, And like I just said, obviously we've signed him on a new deal that was announced earlier on in the week, and if he can continue to do those sorts of things, what an important contract renewal that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, after the game, Danny said that his understanding of the game and his importance at the back end of the last season just highlighted exactly why we were so desperate to keep him. And again, we have been desperate to keep him. Let's not kid ourselves here. He had options elsewhere by all accounts. We have talks of, again, we talked about it last week, that saga of it being on, off. Talks stalled, then talks were picked up again. Then we've clearly gone and offered over and above perhaps what we felt comfortable with to try and keep him at the club, because of all of those things that we've mentioned. And the goal yesterday, again, it might be Alfreton away. The way he shifts the ball onto that right foot to create the half a yard of space, you can do that against anybody. The finish, again, there's no keeper who's stopping that. It is right in the top corner. It's not halfway down the net. It's not like the Mo Diaby one at Wembley where it loops over Westwood to miss it. It loops over Westwood and doesn't go right into the corner. I mean, that is stanchion. That's postage stamp. It's a great goal. I thought he was, again, what you'd want to see from a pre-season friendly, from a player who is playing in that 10 position, running and working the full width of the pitch, in terms of he didn't just stick to solely central. He would look to link play at every opportunity. Asking for the ball is another one, which he was doing a lot of yesterday, where he was showing for the ball but also very visibly pointing where he wanted the pass to be played. Interchange and the link with Bannon is always really good, because I think whoever it is who plays in that 10, if we're going to continue to do that, whether it be Windass, whether it be somebody else, the link with Barry Bannon and making this team tick is vitally important, and we all know that. We've seen that for a number of years. You don't re-sign Bannon if he's not going to play an integral part of it this season.
For me, I just think I'm just so glad that this saga, if you want to call it that, is over. With will he, won't he? Is he signing? Is he not? He's signing a new contract. It's done. It was done. Fairly soon after the start of July. It was on, what was it, Tuesday, Wednesday? Tuesday, I think it was, wasn't it?
It came out with the kit release. It came out with the kit release Monday.
I've no idea. All the days was merging into one. So many things were happening last week. I've lost count really. But the fact that it was done very early in that regard, it's not rumbled on. He's not there. You're not thinking training started. Oh, he's missed the first week. He's missed the second week. Where is he? Is he going somewhere else? It's all done. It's all dusted. I know there's a few more that need to be, some I's dotted and T's crossed and things like that. But yeah, I'm just delighted really that all this work's been done early as well. All the signings that we've made. What's that now? 7 permanent signings that we've made. Iofa, which we'll get onto in a bit. He's signed his new contract. Obviously, Bannon, Palmer. It's all been done early, which is unheard of, not just for Sheffield Wednesday, unless you're Rotherham United. Not many other clubs are doing this sort of business so early.
The benefit of it is exactly what you saw yesterday, is a pre-season game that doesn't look like the first pre-season game where it's a bunch of strangers all meeting one another for a kickabout at Power League or goals or wherever. It looks like a cohesive team who have been training, who all know exactly what is required. Now, again, I know what the manager requires. There are so many teams in this league currently who are flapping and floundering. You only need to look across the other side of the city, irrespective of the news that's come out from Radio Sheffield today. They are 13 first-team players, irrespective of whoever it is who potentially buys or takes over them. We all know from last season My word, is that going to take them a month, 2 months to actually all knit together and fit together? It's exactly the same for a number of different clubs. My YouTube feed, for some reason, keeps cropping up with every single Championship team's first day back of pre-season. And you look at some of the teams that are in there, like, say for argument's sake, the Luton one popped up the other day. I'm looking at that thinking, is Carlton Morris going to be there come the end of August? Is Victor Adebayo going to be there come the end of August? Because these are players who other clubs will be looking at. Like, is there, like, they will all be looking at potentially unsettled squads. We are in a really strong position of, okay, Masaba Gassama, who is going to come in and buy one of our players currently? Like, who is there who somebody comes in? Pierce Charles, maybe, but we've just signed him to a new deal. Bailey Cadamartri, exactly the same. Who is going to come in and pay money for one of our players at the minute? And actually, it's not a bad squad. Yeah. It wasn't a bad squad last year, but we've just made it better.
Well, they're going to want to stay because of the project that Danny Rill's doing. And football, as much as we hate to say it, it is a job for those players. Like, they've got to go in day out, and they're here now, and things are positive, things are looking up. The manager's doing great things, and it's like they want to be a part of this positive team. Right, they might not be playing every single week, and they might want to, but end of the day, like, if they're enjoying it and the sessions are good, and they feel it might get to a point where teams might come in to sign players from Sheffield Wednesday because the coach, the first team manager, was Danny Rill. So like thinking, we want a bit of that. We want Danny Rill's taking that player from here and he's now there. Like, we want all of that. So yeah, I can't see why. I mean, blue tinted glasses on at this point, but I can't see why anyone would want to leave Sheffield Wednesday either. Irrespective of whether someone's going to pay money for them, I'm sure they'd want to stay. And I guess Danny Rill's probably been quite clear on, how much game time they're going to be playing. The likes of Michael Smith, he's knocking on a little bit now. He's probably been told he's not going to play that much, but it's probably only the older players that are really like that. Michael Ahekwa is probably another one who's probably not going to get much game time. But you look at his age, and he's probably happy just to be, knocking around a Championship club at this point.
So I was just about to say on Michael Ahekwa, he was so vocal yesterday, with in between all of the streams. I'm sure people who were there actually got to go. Will have heard this far better than me. He was one of the constant voices you could hear in that first half. Constantly talking, constantly organising, constantly talking to players in every area of the pitch. He's not just talking to Akin Famewo, who's next to him. He's talking to Anthony Masaba, and he's telling him when to drop. He's not leaving him to kind of do it. He's going, and hold, now drop. And then you'd hear it, Masaba drop. Again, he's talking players through the game. You were mentioning there, he might not get a lot of game time. We got stretched really deep at centre-half last year, and that was the one area of the squad where we were actually really, really deep in terms of quality. I would imagine he will play this season. And again, on the strength of that yesterday, I know it's Alfreton, I know he's not particularly tested, but again, that strength in depth is now starting to be there, if that makes sense. It's now starting to arrive, apart from there is still one glaring area of the pitch two glaring areas of the pitch where there is not massive depth really, which would be centre mid and also up top as well.
Yeah, definitely. Just you've put down in the notes like the speed of passing and the tempo, very, very slick, and it's something that I feel like has been lacking in the Sheffield Wednesday side for quite some time. It's just another thing that I'm just excited to see if that continues, that 1-2 touch football. I always say that you see the good sides know where the players are going to be. Before they pick the ball up and they just know where. They don't even have to look. They just know they're going to be there. And it's just one touch to control it. Second touch is a pass. And I just thought that was quite evident. Let's get into the second half then, Matt. Because I know again we're still talking about the game and time is ticking on. Malik Wilkes pops up with a header and a goal. I'll run through the team before anything else. I'm sure people know, but Charles in goal, Valentin Otigbayo, a name that I've not seen before Diaby, Max, Lowe, Palmer, Ingleson, Wilkes, Kabake, Kadamartre and Smith. As I mentioned, it didn't take Malik Wilkes long to stamp his a claim on the game, a header from a Kabake cross, but just seen wheeling away, thinking, who's that imposter on the pitch?
I can't. Do you know what? It was Al, who is in the Discord group, who was saying, "Oh, he looks really sharp here. He might net." And then 5 minutes later, he ended up scoring. I just said to him, "I can't buy back into Malik Wilkes. I will happily be proved wrong. I will not be at the house party when he's throwing it and everybody else is inside having a wonderful time. I'll be stood outside on the street. I won't be invited. That's fine." I am convinced, and have been convinced since he signed for Sheffield Wednesday, there is a player there. Because he's got all of the raw elements for it. He's got that nastiness. He's got the attitude. He's got all of the things that would make him a competent Championship forward. We just haven't seen it consistently at all. And I know that there is a whole host of off-field stuff that nobody actually really knows what it is. Everybody's heard rumours or this or this or this, but nobody actually knows. I fully bought in at the start of last season. I was convinced Malik Wilkes was going to be, our 10, 12, 15 goal a season striker, or kind of like man from wide, and he was going to go out and tear up the division because, again, if you look at our wide options, he's got everything that is there. He cuts in from wide. He's got an ability to, we're talking about Saka goal earlier, to do just that. We've seen that in a Sheffield Wednesday shirt. He can hold the ball up because his arse is as wide as Callum Patterson's. He is strong. Like yesterday we saw, he actually has a really decent spring on him. He's got that horrible side to his game where he wants to wind up opponents. All of that is huge, big tick boxes for me. The problem is what's going on between the ears, and that might not be his own fault. That might be down to what's going on off field.
Do you think Danny sees that and that there is a player in there? And do you think we talked, I think it was last week or the week before, about Danny kind of liking these project players, to a certain degree. Do you think Danny sees that and thinks that he can actually get something out of him? Something just looking, it didn't feature a lot, 15 times last season. He didn't play at all under Cisco. He did 14 minutes against West Brom in the game that got Cisco sacked. He played 28 minutes against Watford, which was Danny's first game, 25 minutes against Plymouth at their place when we just imploded and lost 3-0. Then he didn't really feature much until New Year's Day, and then he just kind of got a few minutes here, there and everywhere. I didn't really get many. I mean, the most he played was actually in that 6-0 hammering against Ipswich when he got 37 minutes. But yeah, I don't know. It's he's played in this pre-season friendly. It doesn't really mean much because he played 22 players in that in the game. But I don't know whether he's thinking that maybe is he an option for this season or not. I've no idea.
Yeah, the other thing to say on this is he's clearly really well liked by a lot of the squad. You can see that from any of the footage that's come out this week. He's clearly really well liked and respected by a number of different people across the squad. It's not just a particular group of people who you always see him with. You see him in, we only get 7 minutes of footage, and it's kind of, edited to look a particular way. But he clearly has a relationship with everybody who's there. Again, I will not buy into him again this year in terms of, I think that we have better options now in those wide positions, and I do think he's a long way down the pecking order. If we continue to sign every winger under the sun, he'll be even further down the pecking order. I'd said all of that 5-10 minutes ago. We don't really have an asset. Someone will take him in League One because, again, for the exact same reason that we did. If Bolton, if Bolton are sat there a couple of games into the season thinking, need a bit of pace here, need a bit of this, he reeks of Bolton, a Charlton move. Charlton would, having just lost Alfie May, we'll go out and we'll sign him. It's not quite worked for him here. We can get him at a cut price deal. Nathan Jones instills all of that horrible Nathan Jones into him, and it could work out for him. Again, I am still convinced that there is a player in there. I'm not bought into the fact that we will see it in a Sheffield Wednesday shirt anymore, sadly.
Dinner1966, what a username, by the way, on YouTube. He said, Wilkes is poor League One. Just kind of reaffirming what you've just said there. it was a chance in the second half to see quite a lot of the new players. I know we saw Valerie in the first half. Hamer between the sticks didn't have a great deal to do, and I don't think we're going to see a great deal of him this season either. But yeah, we saw, like I said, a few of the new boys in the second half. One of them being Kabake on that left-hand side. Obviously got an assist for that first goal. I was really impressed with Olaf Kabake. I know it's only a small sample size. Again, we know it's only Alfreton, but you could quite easily do absolutely nothing in your first pre-season game. For me, looked very positive. Looked like he wanted to beat his man every time. I think I'm right in saying left foot, right foot as well. He's quite competent with both, which, I mean, for a winger that can use both feet, that's quite frightening. You know, most fullbacks will just want to, you know, send you down to, you know, send you onto your weaker foot, you know, show you inside if that's not where you're normally going to go. But the fact that he can do both, I put a tweet out saying, you know, wherever he's found this guy, you know, fair play. Someone smart ass tweeted saying Polish second tier. I'm like, yeah, I know that, but you know, what sort of radars and you know, the fishing net has been cast quite wide for a Polish second tier player to be coming up, if you know what I mean. So fair play. Like I said, it is a very small sample size. Joost van Aken looked good at one point when we first signed him. So I'm not getting too excited, but from what I've seen, I'm fairly impressed.
Yeah, you can't be anything but in terms of he is a different wide option to what we've got. He still beats players and he still wants to be actively, you know, attacking a fullback. But I mean, you know, I'd mentioned that it's a lot less trickery. There's a lot less kind of like step overs or you know, like flicks around corners or like, you know, like rolling the ball under the feet or anything. It's a lot more sort of like quick shifts of the ball and like a move to the side or like an interchange with one another. I think it was the one where Malik Wilkes and Bailey Cadamartri and then him were all allergic to shooting, where he picks the ball up on the wide left, drifts inside and past three players, plays a 1-2, gets the ball back, plays it across to Wilkes, who then tries to beat the goalkeeper, who then kind of leaves it to Cadamartri, who then leaves it to Kabaki, who then ultimately ends up getting cleared off the line. He was really lively. I do think he benefited massively by having someone like Max Lowe behind him. Max Lowe, who, again, I'd ignore what other side of the city say about him in terms of tripling over sprinklers and all the rest of it. If you talk to Forest fans will tell you that he is one of the better defensive wing-backs in the Championship.
He looked so calm on the ball for me.
Yeah.
He looked like he knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't rushed. Everything was calm and calculated, just positive, running forward. It just kind of, just looked like, I know he has played in the Premier League, but he just looked a cut above everyone else, I thought.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to this idea of we've signed players to play the system and signed players to play the identity of what Danny Roll wants rather than signing a player because of who he is. Yes, he comes with a reputation. Yes, he comes from the other side of the city, but we've signed him because of that exact reason.
But you know what, though, Matt? The difference is, obviously, Danny Roll was there last season. The difference from last season, he knows what the team needs and what it doesn't need based on, you know, the time he was at the club last season and what's happened. So he's going into the pre-season thinking, right, well, I'm all right here. This is what I need in these areas. And at the moment, it looks like he's gone out and got that. He wants to play in a certain way, so he's just filling those areas. We're hoping that the centre mids are going to come in. We're hoping that a striker's going to come in as well. But you know, we need to calm down a bit because it's still five weeks until the start of the season. You know, it's not starting
tomorrow.
Yeah, the first game is not next week against Plymouth. You know what I mean? We have got a bit of time left on that. But that's the difference. Whereas, you know, Cisco, I don't like saying his name, but Cisco came in and he clearly not watched anything of Sheffield Wednesday. He didn't even have a clue who we were or anything else. So that is the big difference for me. Like you said, Max Lowe has been brought in to play that system.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with our current wingers who we finished with last year, if you were Danny Roll, Antti Masaba is great going forward, Jedi Gassama is great going forward. They work back, but they don't like it. It's not there. It's not what you. They're not like those type of forwards. James McLean. I know a lot of people don't like him, but if you look at James McLean, he is a proper example of winger who wants to get up and back, who wants to do both sides of the game. You know, a traditional United Kingdom winger, somebody who wants to run at players, but then he's also more than happy to fill in at left back for 20 minutes because the left wing back's gone on a run. He has signed players who will happily go forward and happily provide the overlap or underlap if it's there, but it's not the be all and end all. That actually the lads who he signed, in terms of, I thought Valery did this in the first half with Gassama, I thought Lowe did it in the second half with Kabaki. If it's not on, you carry on. This is what you do. You carry on and you just beat him. I'm here if you need. Yeah. Which is where we were caught on. I go back to Leeds last year. That second goal for Leeds comes back because Johnson's gone bombing on, absolutely tearing up the pitch. Free kick's given, and then he's out of position. And we get cut apart with, it's great interchange of play and all the rest of it, but we get cut apart. There were loads of times last year, the amount of times when we were playing Akin Famayo at left wing back in those first couple of games, and it was down that side. Yeah. And it was because he'd gone forward and then was out of position, and he's not used to defending on a half turn. We're now signing players to play positions, but not necessarily thinking, like Paul Valentin gives you, he's going to go and absolutely fly down a wing. You might see that from Max Lowe and Jan Valery over the course of the season, but it's not going to be what they are brought in for. They're not brought in for their ability to also play, like a right or left forward.
Yeah. Another new player, Ingelsson, Svante Ingelsson. I got pulled up on his pronunciation last week. Unfortunately, didn't get pulled up on my pronunciation of Polish, which I'm quite glad at. But yeah, absolute man mountain in that middle of the park. He's absolutely massive. Again, I thought we didn't see. He didn't stand out for me because obviously, like I said, we were playing. It was very much down the wings. The ball was, didn't really go through the middle. But I thought what we saw of him looked very, cool, calm, and collected. I think Lee commented saying agree about Ingelsson. Good to have some height and presence in that centre midfield, but also played a box to box role. Last time we had that was Kieran Lee. Yeah, I agree. But box to box midfielder. It's, I suppose, George Byers tried to do that, but couldn't really hold down his place in the side as much as he perhaps wanted to. But Ingelsson, again, from the small sample size, looks like a solid player to me.
Yeah, I think, again, the first half, just going back to the first half, Bannon, there was times where Bannon was screaming at Rio Shipston in that Barry Bannon way that he often does to young players, basically telling him to get out of my way, because they were almost trying to play in exactly the same position and try and do exactly the same things, which that's not to say that Rio Shipston might not be a very good footballer and might not turn into a good and solid option for us off the bench this season. Who knows? I haven't seen enough of him. When Ingelsson came on, you could see if you pair Bannon and him together, it might be a case of, in certain games he wants to go flying box to box and all the rest of it. But he actually looked more than happy yesterday to just sit and keep possession ticking over, which is a underrated skill. Kieran Lee's mentioned there. We've seen 45 minutes of him. I can't put him in the same.
Look, I saw 45 minutes of Momo Diaby and thought he was prime Yaya Toure. So I've no need to talk. You know what I mean?
But there's an example. Physical stature, fairly similar in terms of physical stature. The way in which that they approach the game, completely different. And you are dealing with small sample sizes for both of those players, because we didn't see particularly much of Momo Diaby last year. There's no, so far, glitz or glamour with Ingelsson. There's no holding off a player, doing a half turn, rolling the ball under his feet. There's none of that. I'm sure he can run away from players. We've all seen the YouTube clips. He looks like a player who Danny has brought in to play a system of sit and keep this ticking. I just want you to keep feeding that ball and moving it around. Now, I would say the player who you compared him to right at the top, George Byers, was clearly what we all thought that was going to be last year, and what I think Danny Roll wanted him to be. I think what he realised with George Byers, I'm not saying that George couldn't come back in the future and it all turns into the greatest love story ever told, but he wasn't. That wasn't him last year, and that isn't him now as a footballer. If he comes in and provides that really calm head to basically just sit in the middle of the park and just keep the ball, recycling possession, just keep moving it side to side, just keep, we were talking about how monotonous kind of like play is, but if he can move a team about and help to manoeuvre a team about for that killer ball from Bannon, for that killer ball from Windass, or to feed Gassama or Masaba or whoever it is out wide, and then they start playing, that's such an invaluable player to have, not somebody who wants to be a hero.
Yeah. Talking of heroes, not necessarily a hero last season, certainly the season before, Liam Palmer, with obviously that goal. He played in that central defensive midfield role in the second half. Do you think that's where Danny Vrill sees him playing this season? Because, you know, we've already spoke about on, you know, left hand side, right hand side of defence. We've already brought two new players in Valerie and Max Lowe. You know, that's, you know, all right. Palmer could play central defensive midfield. I think, you know, right of a back three. He played fantastic last season. Doesn't really look like we're going to be playing with a back three next season. So I don't know. Do you think we're going to see much of Liam Palmer? And if we do, is it going to be in that the Will Volks role? Let's call it.
I was just about to say, James, do you think he's good enough to play that role? Like, at championship level, do you think he's good enough to play that role?
No, is my honest answer. I just think, like I just said, when he played right centre half, I thought he was great. I think he were, last season with Paul Valentin, that interchange in play. The goal he scored against London is a prime example of that. And thinking both one goes, the other one doesn't. When I think he's played in that defensive midfield role a few times, and I think he's just not quite got it. Maybe League One he could potentially do that. I just think, Palmer's played a multitude of different positions and has been a great servant, but I'd be a little bit worried if we're asking him to play, in that defensive midfield role next season in the Championship, really.
If that's where Danny sees him playing, Cole, I'll, crack on. Like, I personally don't think that's his best position. I think it's worked once when we've played him there, and that was Peterborough at home, and that was because everybody else was deciding to basically try and stand on Peterborough's goal line. It's the only time that it's worked. I think his best position for us is at right centre half. I don't think it's at right back anymore. I think it's at that right side of a back three. And if we're playing a back three, and I would imagine over the course of the season, you will see us go into different systems and you will see us play that. I don't think it will be rigid. I think it will have every single formation that we play, or every way, or whoever it is the team, there will be principles and non-negotiables of how he wants you to play. But the formation and the system can change and can be fluid, because actually we saw that over the course of the season just gone.
Well, according to Transfer Market, he's played 42 times in that traditional defensive midfield role. The most of those came, in 2012-13 in League One for Tranmere. I think that was when he played most of those. He played apparently 6 times there last season. You mentioned League One playoffs. Yeah, he definitely played there. Other than that, he's ones and twos. So he's not, a couple. Weirdly, 3 times in the FA Cup in that role.
But that's usually because he's the only senior player who's actually playing.
Probably, yeah. So it's like the whole Trent Alexander-Arnold thing, isn't it? Really, not really played there that much. It might just be that, they made lots of changes and that's only where, he could play, really, to get some game time.
You're not going to chuck Bambo Diaby there, are you? It was it was one of the centre-half options. And the other one was, who was it? Otokabeyo, who's a kid. Like, you're not going to put either of those there. You're going to put the guy who played all his youth football coming up. For anybody who hasn't watched that Liam Palmer 45-minute long watch on YouTube that we've done, go and watch it. It's really, really good. And I think it's such a great thing that the club have done. His boot collection from 25-minute onwards is worth it alone. Less so the shirts and a reminder of that. But I just think from the sample size that, again, personal opinion, from the sample size that I've seen of watching him, he is now a right centre-back of a 3. He is not a right wing-back. He can play it, but he's more defensively minded, which might suit him in this system. He's definitely not a central defensive midfielder, just because he doesn't see the pitch the way that you need to for that position. In modern day football, he just doesn't see the pitch for the right way. He's not a player who is constantly on a half turn or on a swivel. When he plays that position, is somebody who is like a bounce board effectively. in terms of the ball goes to him, it goes straight back where it's come from. Now,
Yeah.
again, in some games, that might be really useful where we have a lot of, I'm thinking about like Oxford, that might be really useful. Oxford at home, where we've got a lot of possession. Cool, you might want to play him there because actually you can then just leave him, the other two centre-halves, and you can be really attacking out wide and chuck everybody up the pitch, trying to overload kind of like your wing areas. For the majority of the games in the Championship, he is found wanting in that position for me. And I would want to see him. I would want to see him being used as a centre half primarily this season. Yeah,
Definitely. I 100% agree on that. In interest of time, I think there's not a great deal more to say about the game. I kind of said it at the top. Really, it was just a great run out, and I'm glad that we actually won a pre-season game at the first time of asking, other than like last season, which we. Chesterfield, I think, was the first game we won in pre-season, weren't it, to be honest? They've got I don't think we're going to get through everything. We'll probably have to wait for extra time, to be honest. One thing I'm going to mention, I've seen loads of people mention it in the chat, in the comments, is about Deshaun Bernard. Now, I did get wind earlier that he's looking close and looking likely that he's going to be signing a new deal. If that is the case and that is going to happen, you might as well just promote us now, to be fair. I don't care what anyone else says. There's no point even playing these games. You might as well just give us a 2-0 win, every single one, and let's just fast forward to next season in the Premier League. But no, in all seriousness, like, we keep saying all these good news stories after good news, like Deshaun Bernard, a season with him, at centre back, and seeing what Danny Real could do with him, I'm just getting excited just the thought of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought that his post match press conference with BBC Radio Sheffield was really interesting, because yesterday he was completely refused to be drawn out on. They asked him about Scott Wright, the winger from Rangers, and it was a little bit more smirking and couldn't stop himself smiling. Still wouldn't respond to it, but was basically saying you could, again, similar to what we saw with the Owls in the Park, where he's got to get better at lying. They then got on to, later on in the interview, Deshaun Bernard, Ike Ugbo and Jan Poveda, and he flat out refused to be drawn on it. Absolutely flat out refused to be drawn on any of the three that he was asked on. I thought then it was really interesting today that every single Wednesday fan was posting like a Jamaica flag with a soon, and then I noticed that obviously it had gone up from ourselves as well. I think I think that's a really interesting signing, because I don't know if anybody remembers this, but when it was asked the question yesterday, I kind of flashed back to the back end of last season. There was a lot of rumours that Deshaun Bernard had already made his mind up, that he wasn't actually going to stay with Sheffield Wednesday and that there were going to be better options for him out there. Now, I can probably hazard a guess that there are definitely better options out there.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know where the 1-year contract has come from, whether that's him and his agent, or whether that's the Sheffield Wednesday. It was our decision to sign a youngster on that sort of deal. It could be either, to be honest. It wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? The fact that Chansiri got burnt a lot by signing players on long contracts. It feels like he's gone full circle and done totally the opposite. Although now we are signing players on seemingly long contracts. Kabaki on a 4-year deal, according to his agents. But yeah, it'd be interesting, because if it's us that's giving him 1-year deal, it could also be like a bit of a fuck you, like, I'm better than that. You should have given me longer. Yeah. Now I'm going to go somewhere else. Totally, just guessing on that because we don't know.
But would anybody have been surprised to see him pop up at like Middlesbrough or Burnley or one of those sides that or expect? I say no, that you expect to be up at the top end of the division.
I think that's his level, top end champ.
Personally, I think it's top end champ, low end prem. Like, that's realistically where I think he's capable of. I think at top, middle of the prem, I think he gets found out for pace. Like, he's not slow, but I think he gets found out, and that is ultimately the separator in Premier League football, isn't it? You have to be a hell of a footballer if you're slow in the Premier League, because everybody is lightning fast. Yeah. But I suppose the other thing on the Bernard situation is he came back from the Copa America. The side are already, all club sides are already back now. He is probably sat there thinking, well, actually, do I want to go through another 2 or 3 weeks worth of contract negotiations? I know, obviously, we were talking about this with Windass and it being, the idea of like everybody's got a phone now, they can all do this, and an agent can all do this. But I would imagine while you're playing while you're playing effectively the Euros, like you don't want that distraction. You don't want your agent ringing you up after a training session and going, well, I've got this offer from here and I've got this offer from here. You probably want that full focus of being exactly where you need to be. Comes back from the Copa America. He's then sat there with, right, I've got all of these options. Now, unless you are coming back to Sheffield Wednesday or Hull, where he's been previously, or Portsmouth, you have no idea what you're walking into. Absolutely nothing. And you've got to go and physically go to the club, have a meeting. You've got to speak to the manager. You've got to go through the whole rigmarole. And before you know it, that's a week, half a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into a pre-season. And then the season is literally around the corner. You're already starting yourself on a back foot. Comes here, he knows he's got a really progressive and forward-thinking manager. He's guaranteed to play. And
the fans love him. He's got a song, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean?
And the other thing is as well, and I would say this, we don't know what Danny's going to do on this because we have no idea of this. If I was his agent, the first thing I would be saying is you are inserting a release clause of, let's say, 5 million into my contract, and I don't care where that 5 million comes from, whether that comes from in division or out of division, I am able to talk to clubs. I would imagine with how progressive Danny is about thinking about things, about the fact that we're going to the Polish second division to try and sign wingers on 4-year deals, I would imagine that is pretty much his business model to try and get us there in terms of from a wider and progressive thinking about how you progress the squad. If you are then Deschamps Bernard, that's a really attractive proposition. I would also imagine he comes in as one of our highest paid because we know how important he is to us. Saying all of that, I would still want us to see us bring in a really competent ball-playing centre-half to play alongside him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, by all accounts, Deschamps Bernard and Windass were offered contracts, obviously, which we know at the end of the season. Danny Rill then said, can you up those? Because by all accounts, both weren't going to sign the new deals, as of the initial contract that they were given. Obviously, the Windass one's been sorted and everything else. It sounds like Danny Rill really wants this one to happen. He's managed to twist Chantieri's arm and get the Windass one sorted. Like I said, we don't know anything about what the deal is. I just hope that the same things happen as I've mentioned. It sounds to me like it's all pretty much done. I've seen people in the comments as well. Apparently, Ugbo is also done as well. So maybe we're getting that striker as well, which it's just, you see it so many times, like signing players that have played for a club previously. The Pervada one again is another one. It just makes perfect sense. It just makes perfect sense from a signing, from a player perspective, from a club perspective, and all these players that we're talking about have been loved by us last season. We all, so again, walking into a club that you know how they play, you know what the fans are like. First of all, they like it. You just imagine the opening game of the season against Plymouth, and we've got Deschamps Bernard, we've got Ugbo and Pervada, let's say, and also the others that they were also. So, I mean, Beadle for starters, he's going to be walking out. He's going to be walking out, and you already know, he's going to get they're going to get a rousing applause from every Wednesday fan because of what they've done last season, which they've all been a part of, and everyone's gonna be hoping that that's gonna roll into this season as well. So
I mean, you mentioned at the top of this, James, that you've got a semi about England being in the semis. Just mentioning that team lineup there, that set me off. Apologies to anybody who's watching it live on YouTube. This is going to become very awkward.
Hey, the semi's not about England. The semi is fully about Sheffield Wednesday. Let me get that straight for a second.
It just honestly, when you were just rattling off those names there in terms of players who have, again, Jordan's just wrote this in the chat. He's absolutely right. Sorry, Wayne Rooney's Plymouth.
Yeah, apologies. Sorry about that, everyone.
Apologies.
Sorry. Yeah.
Again, he's 100% correct. All of that you have just mentioned sounds incredibly positive. There is just that sad nagging little bit in my brain that this is Sheffield Wednesday, and no matter how positive this week has been, that we are still going to go into the new season without a striker, without that kind of striker that we all desperately needed. Saying that, Jamal Lowe wasn't there yesterday. we have got no idea where he is going to play for this Sheffield Wednesday team, because I can't imagine he's going to be out wide, because he's going to be very busy if it's out wide.
Can you play with three left-sided wingers?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's a new one, isn't it? England aren't playing with one, so we'll just play with three. It is. I am looking at it thinking this is the most optimistic that I have been for a long, long time. I mean, under Darren Moore, it was cautious optimism, and there was an expectation in that second season. This, however, is, you kind of look at it and think, genuinely, sky is the limit with this, because it is a wide open championship this year. It really is. It is a really wide open league this year. There is nobody who you sit there and think, wow, they're going to absolutely walk this. It's very much a league where anybody can beat anybody. Now, that is, Wednesday could finish 20th, Wednesday could finish 8th, 9th, 6th, anywhere around, literally anywhere in the league. But that, as you say, that huge groundswell of optimism that is going to be there on that Sunday against Wayne Rooney's Plymouth, and hopefully for the remainder of the season, is all bought on the hard work and the good work of last year, and those players who have earned the right. Deshaun Bernard has earned the right to have the reception that he has. He's earned the right to have the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 away fans at every single game wringing their hands like that for his chant. For Millwall away, I think it went on for a solid 10 minutes, when it was fairly fresh and new. They have earned that. Now, again, you get sentimental about it, don't you, as a football fan? Money talks, but you don't get that everywhere. And I think he's been around enough clubs now to know.
Yeah, when you were rolling them off, you missed one. Salford is another one of those players. You missed that one. So yeah, walk straight into their side, hands down. But yeah, you bang right when you say it. Right, let's wrap things up there. We've not even got a chance to talk about Dom Iorfa, James Beadle, or even the new away shirt, which we'll see on Wednesday. We'll see it on Wednesday when England play Netherlands. So we'll see that firsthand. We'll talk about that on Extra Time. We asked for questions as well for this week's Extra Time, and they delivered. The first question was, what is the best way to use a potato? So we will be answering it. So if you want to hear about the best way to use a potato, also our realistic terms. What progress looks like next season, and also New Barrack Tavern versus the Crown, pros and cons. That was another question that popped up. We're going to be answering them all. If you want to hear about all that, head over to patreon.com/WTID pod, and you can sign up. 7-day free trial. There's no excuse not to get signed up. You get access to the Discord as well, which I said it last week. It's just always active every single day of the week, with people talking Wednesday and everything else about potatoes and whatever else they want to chat about. But yeah, do join us over there, and we'll see you then. Thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, over 1,500 people apparently been watching this stream right now. So yeah, we're obviously doing something right.
Imagine next week when we've signed Deshaun Bernard, Ike Ugbo, Jan Paveda. There'll be 15,000 in here next week.
The stream will be lagging like Alfreton Towns was yesterday morning. Right, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers, guys.